guys, welcome back to another video. We are checking out 25 common misconceptions about the United States that simply aren't true. So let's check it out. I wonder if I have heard of any of these before and if I believe them. So we'll see if I can, learn something from this video today. Let's check it out together. If you have anything to add, just put it down in the comments and I will check those out after I put the video up. All right, let's get started into the video. 25 misconceptions.
The United States often draws a lot of flack from the rest of the world for everything.
A lot.
From its foreign policy to the way it runs its domestic affairs. In fact, it seems like there are few things that can divide the world more evenly and more strongly than asking people what their opinion is of the United States. Everyone has an opinion. Even in the same city, you'll meet people who fall on the extreme sides of the spectrum. But what is it exactly that causes America to be so messed up? Even America's own politicians can't seem to stop talking about how messed up things are. Well,
that's
today
everywhere
we're going
right
to take
now,
a deeper look. Are things really as bad as everyone seems to think they are? I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 common misconceptions about the United States that simply aren't true. And as a very important note, this list was produced by both a United States citizen and 2 European citizens that relocated to the United States. It's written to be as fair as possible. No, I'm not 2 Europeans. Or am I?
Oh.
Not.
All right, let's begin with a really common thought. Americans are ignorant about the world. Americans are held to an unrealistic standard. Since the rest of the world watch our movies and listen to our music, they know a lot about our country. But let's be honest, they never studied it. People actually complain that Americans don't even know that Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore. But neither does half the United Kingdom, and they're on the same continent. It turns out that all of us are pretty bad at geography.
There's a lot to learn.
You think America would be better at it, however, considering another common thought is that America spends its days spying on everyone. And that's true, but who doesn't? Germany, France, Switzerland, Japan, Iceland, and all the rest of us spy on each other and ourselves. Moving on, America has been called racist. Please don't take this the wrong way. Racism definitely exists, and it makes the news. But you know what else? America also has a vicious media, and all of the world watches it, sometimes more than their own media. So when something super bad happens in other countries, it might not even make the back page.
Yeah, that's true.
Next, it's a common misconception that Americans don't use public transport. While it's true that we use cars a lot, many regions in America have great public transport.
I guess it depends
or at
on
least
where you are.
just as good as Europe. Besides, what good is a train if nobody can afford it? We're looking at you, UK. Moving on. America does / is fill in the blank. America is far from being a unified entity. Each state has its own laws, cultures, and quirks. Some states have the death penalty. Some don't. Some have strict gun laws, and some don't. Some have free college. Some don't.
Every state
some
is
have
different.
tax, and
Such
some
a large
don't.
country.
So
many
just like you
different
can't say Europe is so-and-so, you can't say the same about the US.
Yeah.
As an additional note, the states are far more independent than many of us realize. In fact, every state even has its own military, known as the Guard. Furthermore, some states pass legislation that directly contradicts the federal government. This is because in the US, the federal government is not the highest authority. The states are.
That's crazy!
To further establish the fact that America isn't a single entity, many believe that Americans only speak one language. But that's no different from the rest of the world.
Sorry, guys.
Have you ever been to France? Or the UK, or Italy, or how about China? Most of them only speak one language too.
True.
That being said, over 20% of the
language.
US is bilingual. Now, let's talk about the military, because people outside the US will preach that America's military does, again, fill in the blank. Nobody is naive enough to think that the US doesn't have selfish interests in mind when it invades a country. There isn't a nation on earth that would do that selflessly. But whenever the bad goes down, it's just as common for other countries to complain that America should do something.
True.
On a more or
Oh
less
my
lighter
God,
note,
true.
Americans are fat.
Oh.
You ever been to the UK lately? There are even scandals because obese patients are getting turned down for surgery. Yes, America does have an obesity problem. But not all citizens are involved in it. I am.
Involved in it.
A big part of the United States is fairly health conscious and is consistently working to help the overweight population better their lives. Thanks, healthy people. And while we aren't perfect, many complain that America is worse than other developed nations in, well, everything. There are many statistics, child mortality, literacy, etc., where the US falls behind countries like Norway and Iceland. But those statistics are based on averages. In Norway, most of the 5 million inhabitants are rich, white, and Norwegian. If you took a similar sample of rich, white Americans in the US, you would find that the statistics are almost exactly the same. The fact is that the US is hugely diverse, and the American experience is completely different with and without money. Translation? The problem isn't healthcare or education, it's economic inequality, almost exclusively. And speaking of inequality, many make the simple but powerful assumption that America just isn't safe.
Yeah.
This is usually what foreign citizens say until they actually come here.
Lots of people
By this same logic, Paris, Brussels, London, Madrid, and almost every other city in Europe is unsafe as well.
True.
Yes, there are guns. But most Americans have never seen or heard a gun being fired. In fact, most Swiss citizens are much more familiar with gunfire than us Americans. All this being said so far, people still expect all Americans to relish in a life of our stereotypes. Guns, fast food, and freedom! What I'm saying is, a lot of the world looks at America as overly patriotic. But here's an honest question. Have you ever met a Russian, Australian, a proud member of the UK? There's no shame in having pride in your country. Us Americans are definitely patriotic, but so is the rest of the world, as they should be. It's not a crime to be proud of where you came from.
As they should
But
be.
that doesn't stop others from thinking we only complain and boast about America whenever we travel abroad. This is largely anecdotal. In America, Americans like to complain just like the rest of us. Only a few of them ever even leave the country, so you're meeting an unrepresentative sample. But in their defense, many times, they're right. Yes, this can hit hard in the pride spot, but maybe Europeans could stand to smile a bit more, right? No? Okay, fine, back to the
I mean, yeah, it's just the differences, right?
By the way, that part was written for our European representative, by our European representative.
He doesn't want to get roasted.
I love all of you. Anyways, statistics viewed by outsiders show that the US is lagging behind. Similar to topics we've already discussed, there's another factor that we have to take into account. Reporting. Every nation reports its own statistics. This means that making statistical comparisons between two developed nations, like the US and the UK, is an exercise in futility. The data is just too close and won't reveal much except that the US counts people one way and the US counts them another. That still doesn't make this misconception true. Americans are fake. Here's the thing. In Europe, citizens are almost proud of the fact that they're really standoffish. But once you get to know them, they're your friend for life. Well, here's a newsflash. Once you get to know an American, they'll also be your friend for life.
Right.
The thing is, though, they don't use this as an excuse to be a jerk in the beginning.
Yeah.
This list sounds great coming from an American. I was totally the one who should have read this one, but I digress. On a totally different but very popular misconception, Americans are the only ones who call football soccer. Actually, a lot of the world calls it soccer. Even parts of Ireland still call it soccer.
In New Zealand,
what do I mean by still? I'm glad you asked. It was actually the British who coined the term soccer. The word soccer is an abbreviation of association and first appeared in universities in the 1880s, sometimes using the variant spelled soccer with a K. The word is sometimes credited to Charles Redford Brown, an Oxford University student said to have been fond of shortened forms such as brekkers for breakfast and rugger for rugby football. Britain actually started using the word football in the late 20th century, possibly because people incorrectly saw it as an Americanism. This next one, Tristan couldn't believe. Could you not?
No.
I'm learning something. To our American viewers, did you know that people in Europe make fun of you for using air conditioning? Why do they need it? Why don't they just leave the window open?
I think it's great.
At least in Florida.
Conditioning in
But here's
America
why they
is
might
great.
be joining us soon. During the 2003 European heatwave, 70,000 people died.
Oh.
This was in large part due to the fact that European homes and buildings are not typically equipped with air conditioning. While they laugh at the Americans for this, hotter summers are going to force them to take appropriate measures. Especially since children and the elderly are very susceptible.
Very true.
Again, I stand by mosquitoes. I'm not opening my window in the summer. Winter, absolutely. Open windows. Moving into the top 9. That's the weird number. Top 9. Many parts of the world accuse the United States of accounting for 25% of the world's carbon emissions. Not so nice. But it also accounts for 25% of the world's economic activity. The truth is that several nations, including countries like Canada, have higher per capita emissions than the US.
Wow.
Next, let's talk about how the world thinks
that.
Americans are ruining English. Actually, both British English and American English have diverged from a common 16th century ancestral standard, and in some ways, American English is closer to the original than British English. For example, American English has, for the most part, retained the language's rotosity, pronunciation of the R in words like hard, while British has, for the most part, dropped it.
Yeah, lost the
Furthermore,
R.
this shift in British English happened around the time of the American Revolution when wealthier Londoners wanted to distinguish themselves from the lower classes. This is only one example, but it goes to show that British English is not an unchanging standard any more than American English. On a totally different note, did you know that Americans don't all live in the suburbs?
Yeah.
Not true. The fact is that in America, you have plenty of people that live in cities like New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Chicago, Boston, and the list goes on. In fact, several regions of the United States are very European, like the Northeast Corridor, for example. The difference between the US and Europe is that if you want to live in the suburbs in the US, you can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Now, this next one is just offensive. Americans are all dumb rednecks.
Oh, no.
While there are certainly Americans who fit this stereotype, the vast majority don't. Most Americans live in cities near the coasts. Most of them are educated, and most of them are not very different from Europeans in any significant way.
Yeah.
Every country has a less educated populace that they themselves make fun of. Even sophisticated nations like Sweden and Switzerland. Fair warning, the last 5 on our list get a bit dark and crazy, starting with the idea that America is imperialistic. In many parts of Europe, the United States is seen as an aggressive imperial power, even more so than Russia and China. This is largely because our military presence both in Europe and everywhere else. But in our strong defense, Americans never forced you to watch our movies, quarter our soldiers, obey our laws, or get permission to leave your own countries. It was the Russians that did that, and much, much more. Food for thought, after World War II, the Americans liberated and left. The Russians liberated and stayed. All right, number 4 is sure to be a shocker to a lot of foreigners. Americans don't actually all walk around with guns. It's just not true. Except for a few places, the only people you'll ever see carrying guns in America are the police. In fact, you'll see more people walking around with guns in Switzerland than you ever would in America.
Really?
Okay. We admit that, like most stereotypes, there is some truth to this next one, but it's been wildly blown out of proportion. Americans are all crazy Christian right-wingers. There's something so right about saying it with that accent. Yes, there are a lot of Christians in America, and while some of them are crazy right-wingers, most of them aren't. In fact, if you ever get a chance to go and stay with one of those crazy Christian families, you'll see that most of them are just genuinely sweet people that go to church on Sundays.
You know what?
This next one sounds like a legit stand-up joke. If you get injured and can't pay for it, you'll just die in the street. Yeah, many people in Europe think this is what happens in America. As with most things that concern America, they're wrong. You can't be denied emergency medical care in the US. That would go against the Hippocratic Oath. The difference is that you get a bill in the mail a few months later. Of course, debt is another issue, but let's get into that right now. Americans are all in debt. Actually, European citizens carry more debt than Americans. The average household debt in the US, OECD, is 113% of the household's income. In the UK, it's 156%.
Wow.
In Sweden, 173%.
Wow.
And in Denmark, it's a whopping 305%.
Jeez.
So, what are some misconceptions about the US that you'd like cleared up? Or do you live in America and want to put a stereotype to rest? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet your answer to us at list25. And
that's nuts.
As an American, I apologize for everything going on right now. Don't worry, 2020 is just around the corner.
Oh.
Enjoy.
Wow. Wow, yeah, I feel like I knew a lot of those already just because I've been to America before. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these misconceptions are by people, like foreigners that have never been to America before or don't know many Americans, and they just see what they see on TV and the media. So they see it as some crazy, out of control country that doesn't really do any good, and crazy people, all this kind of stuff, like violent people, guns, this and that. But if you actually go to America, it's just not like that. It's just like regular everyday life, I feel. Of course, it depends where you go in America. There's definitely bad sides of America for sure. But that's like in every country, I feel. Like you just make sure you don't go where you shouldn't be going, kind of thing. But yeah, I feel like I knew all of those. But I do have a funny story. When I did go to America for the first time, the second time, I was super young. And I didn't know what tipping was. I didn't know tipping was a thing. And I guess I learned over time, over the trip. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that I was supposed to tip. So I really apologized I think there were 2 waiters that I didn't tip. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to tip, didn't know how to pay, didn't know how to do anything. It's really interesting the differences of dining in America and like just say New Zealand or Australia. Here in Australia and New Zealand, you eat your meal and then you usually go up to the counter and pay at the end, and there's no tipping involved. So, you know, going to America, and I guess they come and give you the check pretty quickly too. So I'm like, wow, am I getting kicked off this table right now? And you pretty much are getting kicked off because they need their next table in there to get their money, you know? So yeah, that was interesting, and I didn't really know how to pay. I was like, do I give you my card? Like what? You take my card away? Like I don't know if I feel comfortable with that, but that's just like the norm. So it's so crazy, the differences. But yeah, these misconceptions I feel like are definitely fueled by the news and the media and whatnot, and just like lack of education about America in itself, because again, so many countries have these same issues, but obviously countries like, I don't know, let's just say Norway, or I don't know, like even Japan, or well, I see New Zealand news, but it's not a worldwide issue. Do you know what I mean? Like New Zealand sees issues about its own country, but I don't really see Norway or Japan issues. Whereas I think everyone is always watching America and seeing what it's doing because it is a world superpower. So yeah, it's easy to speak down or get certain misconceptions about the country. And again, the country is massive. I feel like you can't even speak on the whole country because there's just so many different states, and they all kind of control their own area and do their own thing in a way. So it's super interesting. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have anything to add or anything that I missed or anything that they missed, just leave a comment down below and I'll read through them once I upload the video. Guys, thank you so much again, and I will see you all in my next video. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video as well, and to give me a follow on Instagram if you haven't already, and I'll see you over there. Guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys. Mwah.